Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Also nice to see so many familiar faces. Thanks for joining this session. I'm Christian, and I work for a company called Customalytics. Brought some awesome speakers from my team as well as a client of ours today for the session, so very much looking forward to it. What we'll talk about today is user-generated ads, and we will essentially show you a case study from one of our clients, the one standing there in the corner. And the headline is why user-generated content ads are better performance boosters than your overpriced generic agency-produced creatives. A bit lengthy, but at least somewhat provocative, I hope. And that's what we'll talk about today. As a vehicle to get there, we will first look at the agenda, which I can probably skip. As a vehicle to get there, I will not talk about us. We are a full-stack mobile marketing consultancy firm in Berlin. Yeah, nice. So as a vehicle to get there, we will talk about a framework that we came up with, which is the Marketing Master Map. Marketing Master Map is a framework that we came up with pretty recently. The idea with that is that we create one framework that, as kind of the pillars, has all the steps in the user funnel. This is the nice colored boxes at the top. And then attached to that, we talk about the advertising strategies that are kind of most fitting to this part of the user journey. We talk about the channels to use. We talk about the departments that are kind of typically or that should be working on it in a company. And we talk about technologies, everything, of course, in this mobile marketing context. So I highly recommend that you get a copy. We have hard copies in the corner there, so you can have one. It looks like this. There's a physical one, and if you don't want to carry it home, you can also get the digital one with the QR code, or we'll show you the link later. And where the topic of today lives in this is really the advertising strategy part. And in the first steps of the user funnel, which are awareness, interest, and consideration, this is where essentially the topic of today lives. This is where what we're trying to do with our ads is essentially to create a buzz, to create interest and kind of awareness about the brand. What you will see today is essentially ads that are really made for people that are not familiar with the brand yet, and that should, spark their interest. That's the idea with those user-generated ads. And that's what we'll talk about today. Later on, the kind of the advertising messages change a bit. Later on, it's more about communicating the USPs, which partly you will also see today, and kind of talking more about the product. And then later on, it's of course about repetition and kind of brand loyalty, which is of course another objective in marketing. Right. And here you see a nice little overview of the channels, which we kind of tend to use for the different steps in the user funnel. And with this, I will end the little talk about the Marketing Master Map. Like I said, check it out. I think it's really useful to kind of map out your current marketing strategy against. Get a copy, physical or digital. And I can highly recommend taking a look. And that kind of concludes my short part. So I will hand it over to Alex.
Hi, thank you. I'm Alex with Customalytics, and today I want to talk about some best viral ads that you see as a recommendation in TikTok. And what is obvious, these are all big brands. These are big players: Volkswagen, Mercedes-Benz, BMW, and what they have all in common, the investment for these campaigns are enormous. What's obvious also, what's really viral is missing here. Brands that made the step to be viral are not listed there. Their campaign mechanisms work better even. And what's an extremely important fact is the production for this content is enormous. Easy. The spend for the production for user-generated content that is authentic is not familiar. It's not similar to the spend that you have with brands like Mercedes. So these are examples of really well-working viral content. And if you advertise on a platform like TikTok, you have to understand your audience. You cannot compare apples with pears. If you present a brand campaign to an audience like on TikTok in regards car sharing, it's like coming with a Death Star on a Star Trek event. It doesn't make sense. It's another universe. If you understand the audience in TikTok, you see that the older generation, like the 45 to 65-year-old people, they already have a car. So if you think about placing the right content for the right audience, you understand where the audience spends their time. And here you can see that the age from 18 to 35 is usually on TikTok. So money spent well on this area here. Yeah. Thank you.
I'll take this one. Yeah, thanks, Alex, for setting the stage, and also Christian for guiding us quickly through basically the whole master map. So I'm Daniel. I'm taking care of performance and marketing intelligence at WeShare, and I mean, maybe few of you already know us, as we're already also based in Berlin, but we are a 100% electric car sharing company. We have launched 2019 in Berlin, and we just added in February, we just added a second city, which is Hamburg. What is special to us, and what basically is also a USP of us, basically, is that all our 2,300 cars are fully electric. So we have now in the whole fleet basically 2,300 ID3s and ID4s, all Volkswagen, and that also is basically why we are basically a 100% subsidiary of Volkswagen. So that basically makes sense that we only have Volkswagen cars for now. The pricing is pay per minute. So depending on, you just take a car from the free floating service, you take it for a day, you can have it longer. And we also have a pricing scheme for frequent user, which is WeShare Plus, which is then a subscription-based model, basically, that lowers the price per minute and also per day. Quickly talking about WeShare's vision and WeShare's mission. So who are we actually? So we have as a vision that every car is emission-free, shared and affordable for everyone. So that's basically what we did from the beginning, right? We wanted to have a fully electric fleet already when it was not so popular yet to have it. And we started with egos basically back then in Berlin, and now we updated or upgraded basically the whole fleet to the newest car models from Volkswagen, which is the ID3 and ID4, which also bring a higher range, basically makes it a little bit more easier to operate for us because we don't have to charge that often. And our mission basically is, we provide the advantages of owning a car, but basically better, right? This is car sharing, what we are offering. So basically, you pick up a car when you need it. If you don't need it, you just leave it there. You don't have to take care of parking costs, insurance, and so on. So now coming basically, after we have the frame of who we are as a brand, right? How did we put this, basically our brand values, and how can we deliver basically the message on a channel as TikTok, which we have seen that is also quite addressing quite a young audience. How can we basically deliver a message there? And what the setting was, and also the task basically for Customalytics, to come up with a creative strategy, basically, and also basically an apps campaign strategy, is that we acquire new users. You're in the acquisition zone here, so obviously it's all about acquiring new users in our two markets, Berlin and Hamburg. We were optimizing for registrations. We used conversion as a campaign objective with CPI bidding behind it. And yeah, the targeting was obviously city-based, as we only operate in Hamburg and Berlin. And we launched those first ads on TikTok in September this year. And how basically Customalytics went about this and basically delivered what we have asked them for. Laura will tell you a little bit more about the ad creatives.
Click. Yeah, so I'm going to share with you how we decided which ads to put on TikTok and which creatives to use. So first of all, we looked at the creatives that already existed. So we had one campaign, which was one of the evergreen campaigns on Facebook running with quite generic creatives, let's say. So you can see them here. Yep, one of them is playing. Yeah, so you see it's just audio and then the background is moving slightly. So you see a skyline of a city, once at daytime, once at nighttime, but the creative itself is pretty simple. It's just advertising a promotion that was going on. So you can see a code on the bottom. And other than that, it was a pretty simple creative that we used on Facebook and some story ads, but that showed effective performance. So we decided to also try this creative out on TikTok, but not just. So our second approach was user-generated content, which is the main topic of today. So we decided to create different ads that look very generic, are very easy to the user to rely on, and show the app and its features. So the first one was an autumn campaign, and I'm going to play the video so you can see. Yep. And I'm also gonna play the second one. Yeah, you can see that they are both very short and quick. They have like some upbeat music behind them, fitting for TikTok. They're very simply made, so no high production costs were involved here. They were just shot on an iPhone by our design team themselves. So they went out, got a WeShare car, drove off the city in Berlin, went into nature, and had like a nice autumn day. So this is what we wanted to capture there, so that users can really rely on the content and kind of get a feeling of like, oh yeah, this is something I can easily do myself. I can just go out, get a WeShare car, and have a nice afternoon in fall. And the first video I showed you kind of highlighted some features of the car as well, so you know how to easily check in. Also, the audio was different, as you heard, so it was just the clicking sounds that were actually recorded while we were using the product, like the car and the app. So we tried to keep it very simple, but for users to relate. Second campaign. So the first one was focused on how users are interacting with our product. And then the second campaign was a QA campaign. So what we tried to do there is to get frequently asked questions from users that come to the support team. So like, how do I do certain things in the car? How do I register? How do I park? Where can I leave the car? Stuff like that. And then we put them into like a short video and kind of a QA and showing the users some of the answers that they are looking for quite frequently. So this is kind of a different approach because we're switching perspective. So this time it's kind of sharing the answers on the questions that are frequently asked by users. And I'm also going to play the videos. Now the second one. I'd have to click here again. So I think it was quite obvious in the creatives that we try to use like current situations that users are facing, like transporting bigger things like the plants. So we all know during COVID, lots of people got some new plants in their home to make it nice. So this was kind of a common use case that we wanted to pick up there. And then, also showing the app as well as showing the car, because the product only works if you have both. So it was for users to actually understand fully how you can interact with the product and how you can use WeShare to make your daily life easier. And then in the end, we just had some branding. So you definitely know that this is WeShare and not any other car sharing provider. And you have like a nice, fun, very short story that you can easily understand. So those were the creators that we used and the different approaches that we tested on TikTok. So I will hand over to Daniel again to share how they worked.
Yeah, thanks, Laura, for basically presenting the ads. And basically just adding to that, what we really liked as WeShare is really that simple hands-on approach, right? So basically, we didn't have this huge briefing out there. We basically just talked to the creative team, to our performance designers beforehand. We said like, okay, let's do this, let's try it out that, and use some occasions basically how users will also basically use the service normally, right? Especially right now in COVID times. And that actually works really well. But now that we have seen these nice videos, you are probably wondering, okay, how did they actually perform? I mean, they look nice, but did this actually also work in terms of metrics? And I can say yes, as a short number. Obviously, what we saw already comparing against when we were running the generic ads in the beginning, so this is kind of the benchmark when we first launched the channel, what kind of uplift did we see when we started using user-generated content, right? And in terms of the CTR, we already saw a really nice uplift of 25%, comparing basically the first generic ads versus one of the user-generated ones. But even one step further down in the funnel, if you look at the impression to install rate, so not only the CTR, this had quite a really big impact also on the conversion rate, basically from click to install. It almost tripled basically when we started using user-generated content. And I think one idea that I have behind this is basically also with all these small snippets, basically you kind of educate the user, right? Is the service something for him? Is it useful basically to sign up? And also with the Ask Me Anything format, basically, where we basically said, okay, you need to have a driver license and you should be up from 21 years and older. Only then you can basically sign up for the service. This already helped to find the right users and to convert them through sequences basically that we had. And because we had so nice results basically in the upper funnel, this was also visible, and we could basically allocate some more budget to TikTok as a channel where we tested this first. And this was also then basically boosting the install volume, which obviously was one of our big goals, as we are operating in kind of a small market. We only have 2 cities, so it's really a narrow audience that wears out pretty fast. We are always looking basically to how can we expand the install volume in the city, right? And with these user-generated content, we could basically shift more money to TikTok and increase the installs. During that time, we were running the user-generated ones by 30%, which is also a nice result in the end. Other few learnings that I've put down here on that beautiful slide that we basically got from running these on TikTok, these user-generated ads on TikTok. So main takeaways would be from our side that you make authentic videos, obviously. So basically users should identify with them, feel like, okay, this is something that I could do. This is an occasion that I could also do with and take a car. Keep it short and sweet. I think we've also heard this before, basically in features presentation that they basically experiment with a lot of different lengths, but for us, we found that the short ones perform quite well. And the nice thing about that is also that you can quickly add and take out new ones, or basically take out the worst performing ones. and iterate really fast, right? Because you can just shoot another quick sequence and see if it works. Portrait mode, obviously it is. So TikTok is on a vertical channel, and that's mostly used in a vertical format. So obviously we focused only on the vertical videos. We also found that having captions and certain call to actions within the video ads work well for us. So we always made sure to promote an offer, like having a €10 start bonus, for example, or make it clear basically what's the next step after you download the app. You have to register and then you get the €10. So like already lay out the journey for the users to go through it. And the last one, basically, as TikTok is also kind of a special channel and it is different from what we've seen so far on Facebook and so on, it's also good to basically understand how TikTok content works and what's basically out on the platform, and then make your content basically and your ads fitting into this ecosphere, so to say. And all of that basically also awarded us from TikTok as a best practice. So we are now in this automotive category with the big guys, with Volkswagen and so on, which we are really proud of, obviously. Yeah, and then I take it back here to Laura.
Thank you. Yeah, so I'm going to summarize some insights for you guys again. They're not just applying to TikTok campaigns, but they're applying to user-generated content overall. So what we learned is that authenticity is key when it comes to social advertising. So that's why I mean it's not just relevant for TikTok, but there are other social channels like Facebook, Snapchat, wherever you might be running, where user-generated content is just very valuable because the user can just relate to that content in a different way. Then there's also a change on how we consume media. So those social channels are actively changing the way that we look at things. So especially on TikTok, content is super fast and quick and like easy to consume. So that's something users are getting used to more and more by using those platforms on a regular basis. So yeah, the younger audience is spending like lots and lots of hours per day on TikTok. So they're just used to consuming content in that way. And then if they switch to, let's say, YouTube and then have like a 20-minute video, it's just not applicable for them that much anymore. So that's why we also need to change the ads in that way to fit the new need of having like quick content, easy to consume, fun, and with like, motivating music maybe even. Then, next point is high production cost does not equal high impact. I think we have seen that quite nicely in our creators as well. So they were produced super simple with like shot with an iPhone, as I mentioned. Our designers just went out and kind of interacted with the product. So there was not a big cost behind it. And then other productions, and also if you use influencer, that can sometimes very quickly get very expensive because of course they have their prices. So a learning is that you don't always need to go with an expensive influencer. You might have like a working student in your team, you might have some people from your design department that are very creative as well, or you might reach out to another agency that's supporting you with creatives in general that can also create actual content for you, and that's quickly done and also just as effective. So that would be a general tip for you guys to look around and see if you can maybe do something similar. Then the last point is that user-generated content works on different channels. So as you've seen, we tested this on TikTok, but then we also applied those creatives to other social channels because the story format is pretty popular on other channels as well. So you can easily just transfer the creatives, and this even makes it more like kind of cheaper for you because production costs are split. Because we also know that like constantly having to create new creatives and always fitting them exactly to the channel can be very hard. So yeah, by using those and just slightly adjusting some formats, you can easily create content for lots of different channels and leverage them very well. So those would be like some general tips for you to take home and maybe try out for your own campaigns as well. Then I would hand over to Daniel again to share what's next for WeShare and what we're planning to test.
So yeah, basically, just as a last summary, basically, because I already shared the insights, right? For us, next to text basically is to keep iterating basically on the format that we already use. But now we had this running so far only on TikTok, right? Which is obviously the main channel that you want to try out user-generated content. But then we are basically also asking ourselves, okay, would it also work basically if we extend this new format basically to YouTube ads, to Google app ads, to Facebook, obviously, to all these other channels where we're basically running ads, and basically just benchmark how are these channels basically reacting to user-generated content. Do we still need basically the old school stock ads basically that we normally keep running, or can we basically switch everything to user-generated content and iterate more fast? Yeah, that would be basically the big next step for us in terms of creative. So that's something that we want to test out going forward. Yeah. Do we have another slide? No, I think that's it. Okay. I think we have a question slide. Yes, please. Oh, wait a second. We have another microphone, so maybe that's even better.
All right, test.
Yes.
It's working. So thanks for the talk. Really interesting. I would be interested in a bit more stats as well. Do you have some, I don't know, bigger studies or insights about user-generated content versus polished, without just like one example, but maybe, I don't know, 20 clients where you say, okay, the average uplift is like 10% or something like this?
Yeah, I think it's hard to share concrete numbers here. Sorry for that already, because it kind of depends on the vertical that we're working on. But yes, we have tested user-generated content with different clients as well and have seen a significant uplift. I think it just heavily depends on like how nicely, in a way, you still generate this user-generated content. Because if it's just like a shaky phone, or like you're not really showing the features of the app or the product in a easy understandable way, and you're trying to fit like everything into 10 seconds, then it might not work as well, because then the simpler one is just easier to consume and you really understand what it's about. You see a promo code, you see the product, and you get it, you install the app. So I wouldn't say that in general always user-generated content is performing better, but if you manage to get the insights in there and make it fun, then yes, we did see a big uplift, and like usually even more than 10%.
All right, and a follow-up question. When you did it now on TikTok, I guess it will also work very well for Instagram stories as well as for Snapchat. Do you see bigger impact on TikTok for user-generated content, similar to Instagram and Snap, or could you kind of rate their user-generated content for these platforms?
Yeah, I think especially on TikTok, it's very, very important, because like all the generic content is just like that. And then, so it fits in way better into the feed, and you're just scrolling through your daily feed, right? And you see all the generic videos, and then I think every fourth position is an ad. So it's very impactful there. And then on other platforms, I think users are used to different kinds of ads more already. So let's say, for example, Facebook. So there you just get some additional views and more interest of the users, because you kind of stick out from all the other advertisers. So yeah, I would say the impact on TikTok is big, but might be even bigger on different. We need to test for WeShare still, so we can't share numbers yet, but might be even bigger as well on other channels, because yeah, you're just differentiating yourself more from other advertisers.
Thanks.
Welcome.
Hello, my name is Maria, and I have a question. First of all, thank you for the presentation. I think it was really interesting, amazing examples, and very happy that it worked for you. Probably more the question to Daniel, because currently you share very up-funnel metrics like conversion rate, CTR, but what happened with low-funnel metrics? Did you see any influence on your customer acquisition cost? And what's more important, any change in CLV?
Yeah, well, I can share one insight basically that I didn't put on a slide, but obviously, as I said before, we saw a nice increase, or we basically also allocated more budget to the installs, right? To the channel basically, as TikTok performed really well, and we saw that user-generated content worked. And we only did this obviously because we also saw good results in our customer acquisition costs. So what I can share basically is we always test new platforms, right? And especially for social, due to the limitation that we have in the target market and an addressable audience, only having 2 cities, we basically expanded with TikTok to a new audience, basically, that we hadn't covered so far with other social channels. And I think that really also helped us to cut customer acquisition costs. So if I would compare it basically to other big social channels, which you might know some of, we could actually decrease the customer acquisition cost by half. So that was quite significant, actually, only looking at social versus social, not comparing again Google app or anything. But this was quite a big effect that we also saw basically in the lower funnel. Yeah, basically this is why we also put more money behind the campaign, because we saw really proper results. The only restriction that we still have is obviously with iOS, as we have only those 2 city campaigns. We don't spend so much money there that we can get over the install gaps really quickly, right? So with SK Ad Network, you have the limitations basically in looking at lower funnel events, and that's always a little bit tricky. But what we've seen so far and what we could measure, it looked pretty good.
A quick follow-up question. So you said that you allocated more money to TikTok basically from Facebook. Does it mean that your share of Facebook is lower than 50% or more than 50% still?
I mean, in the total mix, I would say it's less. We have a bunch of channels now, and we are testing a lot of different channels basically, and it was less than 50% after we have allocated more to TikTok, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Hi, my name is Vladimir, and I have a question regarding A/B testing of creatives with real people personas. Are you considering it, and if not, why?
Well, again, I mean, from my standpoint of view, basically how we do most of the time A/B testing is by really more like shooting in new ads and test it basically on the whole performance and basically see how it picks up, right? So basically, we always make sure that on a monthly basis, I mean, we also had this nice framework or feature before where you had this process, right? Like how often should you update creatives and so on, and how do you basically go through that? We do the same thing. We have new concepts every month basically that we test. And then obviously we shoot in new ads and we try new concepts. Basically, it could be an iteration of an already working concept, or it could be a completely new ad concept, like user-generated concept that we now tried out. And in terms of A/B testing, we basically test it out in a wide. So we don't basically split the audience A/B, but we basically really look at the overall results. And for persona testing, what you've mentioned, basically, we try to do this also with the creators. And that's what I said. We rather want to have multiple versions that are addressing different aspects of our service, right? Because some people for WeShare, they would use the car only on the weekend to go outside to basically visit Brandenburg and basically stay there for some hours and then go back. And then during the week, they don't really take car sharing. Whereas other users, obviously, they have more the commuting case. Right now, it's a little bit limited because of Corona again. But this is basically how we would address different use cases, right? So we basically shoot in the ads, and then we see basically how do they perform. And then we trust that the algorithms will pick up the right ones.
I think there was one more.
Vincent.
Hi, Daniel. When you share the result between the evergreen campaign from creative from Facebook and the creative from UGC, you show that there was a clear uplift. I'm curious if you can share the result between the UGC. You had the autumn and you had the Q&A, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Between the two, what was the winner?
So, if I recall correctly, but maybe Laura can also help me out because she helped a little bit with the results. The new iteration, I mean, the big bang, basically, what happened, obviously, was when we had the generic ads on the beginning, and then we used the first flight of user-generated. That was really a big win, and that also helped us, basically, to scale the campaigns and to put more money behind it, right? But we even saw with the new ads, we kind of worked a little bit further on the concept, and we worked with these questions. And for TikTok, we found that this works really well. Like basically, we know always from our customer service, obviously, what are kind of questions that people are confused when they use WeShare car sharing service, or what are kind of use cases they want to know more about, or like the one basically where we have this registration gaps, right? Because we have kind of a long funnel, you have to validate your driver license and so on. You have to upload your personal, what's it called? Personalausweis, ID thing. Thank you. So this kind of helps to convert even more users, right? And because people only signed up, okay, I'm below 21 on TikTok. Obviously, there's quite a bunch. So I don't really need to use the service, right? So I think there was an uplift. It wasn't as drastic as basically the first approach, right? Okay, confirmed.